Hello, amazing family. This is Hadija from the Parenting Mindset Shift, a place for parents to find clarity, confidence, peace, and joy in their parenting journey. And today I want to talk about the conversation I have at home in regard to justice or injustice and how I address the different things. And I just wanted to share with you 5 points that I'm making sure I talk about at home in regard to different things that's happening and how to keep it together, right? So the first, and of course, all of the different things that I will address will depend on the age of your child. I have a range from 10 to 18, so the different conversation can vary on how, but the point are still the same. And the depth is different with each one of them. And today I just want us to get inspired to have those conversations at home, because those are important. So the first one, of course, is talking about fairness and what that means, and treating people justly and fairly, and giving them different examples of at home, sharing toys, sharing the different things, maybe giving them the example of what's happening in the world, of how we can treat people justly and fairly. So those are the things that I because it goes back to the values that we have. We want to have those conversations to reinforce the things we believe in and why we believe them, and give them the definition in today's world and at home. When they play with their friends, when they go outside playing to their friend's house, what does that mean, right? So the number 2 that I want to talk about is the rules and consequences. So of course, when we have situation, we want to know that there is places where there are rules and there are consequences when those rules are not followed. What does that mean? Again, what does that mean at home? What does that mean in the world? And give them different example of when there are different things at home that you will receive a friend at home, and you will just explain, my mom and dad, when we are playing in our room, we are asked to put things back to places at one point, and those are consequences, because if we don't do that together, I will end up doing it myself. So understanding those things, and also we are not to get things that doesn't belong to us. If those are things, something that you would like to have, ask kindly, and I can see if I can give it to you. So again, depending on the ages, we explain those things, and we reinforce the values of communicating, explaining the rules and the consequences of those rules. And those for me are important to reinforce and always give them to the example of how the world is working, how things are going. And of course, unfortunately, they will see unfairness, they will see injustice. And that's where now the times goes where talking about the number 3 is helping others. What are we doing in situation where we see injustice? Are we just staying here saying, oh, poor them? What are the things that we do? We try to make sure that we are helping others. We're standing up, talking about how important it is to share your opinion about the different things that you feel are unjust. And it can be in all the different levels, and those examples are happening in all the levels. And when I talk about levels, I talk first at home, then at school, then in the community, and then in the world. And we have, unfortunately, example of unfairness on all those spaces, at home, at school, in the community, and the world. And it's our job and role to communicate those things in all those different levels. And when I talk about level, that's what I'm talking about. So giving them example of all of those. What's happening at home? Do you feel like there is injustice at home? That someone is bullying somebody is oppressing somebody? Do you feel that? And communicate that and try to stand up. So if there are siblings, let's say 3 of them, and one of them is treated equally or unjustly, one of them is standing up for the other siblings and said, this is not fair, and let's communicate and let's make it fair. And then the same thing at school. If somebody is having a situation at school, we want to teach our children to stand up for the person who is not treated fairly. And then that's going to translate it to the world. And that's the job that I feel as a parent, I need to make sure that we do that first at home. It always starts at home. So the helping other, building compassion, teaching them how important it is to fight for the people that cannot fight for themselves. Those are the values that are important to also have a better world later. And the number 4 that I want to talk about is the making sure that we are talking about definition of the words. Different words that we are used may sound very common and obvious for a lot of us, but at home we need to make sure that we understand those words and defining the words like oppressors, oppressee. What does that mean? Definition of disinformation, the news. What does that mean? The first time I heard about that concept of disinformation, I was in college, and I remember this class. The class was disinformation about journalism, and he was a teacher teaching it to us, and he get out of the journalism world because the disinformation was already intense, and that was like 20 years ago, even more than that. So the importance of educating our children to tell them that sometimes you can see different things in the news that may be wrong, and it's for you to make sure that you develop those critical thinking of knowing where to get the information, not just getting those information and without thinking about it, and making sure that we know who are in different situations, the oppressor and the oppressee. Like, you want to understand what are those things. Same thing with propaganda. We talked about the different history in the past, what happened when we are talking about, for instance, one of my kids were talking about the World War II, and we have those conversations about what did something like that happen in the past, and is it something that is going to happen here today, or is it even possible that it's happened? Because when we look at the news in the past, we can see that the information was a manipulation, for instance. And this is our job, to talk about things like that at home, making sure that they understand those definitions so they can develop a critical thinking and not just getting the information like that. So making sure that we have those conversations, and I made sure of that. Like I say, I have a range from 10 to college, so we want to have those conversations. And the last point is modeling. What are you modeling? What are we modeling? Our frustration, our anger, or the way we make sure that we are for the people that are treated unfairly? How are we modeling that? What are we doing? What are our action toward those things? Because our kids are watching the way we do the things. So if I talk about making sure I understand what disinformation means, I'm telling them and I'm sharing with them how I go about getting the information that is true. How I do, how I am taking care also of myself to make sure that I'm keeping my mind sane into being productive in my action. Because yes, we can have all the different emotion, anger, frustration, sadness, but we also need to be productive with those emotions. So it's not about just repressing them. How do we do about it? How do we demonstrate that with our kids? How do we show them where we stand and how we are modeling all the different things we say and how the different conversation we have with them? So those are the points that I want to make sure that I talk with my children. So like number 1, I'm talking about fairness. Number 2, I'm talking about rules and consequences. Number 3, I'm talking about making sure that we are compassionate and helping others. Number 4, I'm talking about definition, making sure that we understand the term used in the world in those moments of justice and injustice. And number 5 is modeling, making sure that we are modeling what we want them to be, which is full of compassion, full of love, and spreading all of that to make sure that the humanity letter, that our kids are the one that is defending the people that are treated unfairly. And so that's the things that I wanted to talk about, and I hope it inspires you to make sure that you have those conversations at home, that we educate ourselves to make sure that we provide the information at home also, because those kids, depending on the age, don't have access of those, and this is only us starting at home to make sure that we are communicating that. So that was today's topic, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please share if you did, and hit the subscribe button so we can continue spreading how we are finding clarity, confidence, peace, and joy in our parenting. And those elements of getting educated are some aspect of finding joy, finding peace, which is really the term right now, finding and making sure that our heart is in the right place, and spreading that. So hey, continue to sharing, and I will see you next time.